I sent the kids to summer camp and took a vacation to the Côte d'Azur for the first time in 10 years. All I wanted to do was lounge peacefully on the beach and solve puzzles. It was the only consolation in my monotonous life as an accountant and mother of 2 restless boys. I noticed that one of the hotel guests had the same puzzle book as I did. The guest's name was Vicky, and she liked logic puzzles too. We lived next door to each other, so we would go to the beach to hang out together, compete in Sudoku, and go out to restaurants at night. Vicky was a programmer and was passionate about encryption. Over a glass of wine, she talked about various ciphers, their inventors, and also a bit about herself. Once there was an upsetting incident in the restaurant. A young couple was sitting at a table next to us. First, they were talking peacefully, but then the man started yelling at the girl and even took a swing at her. Vicky was quick to react and pushed him away. The hotel staff came running to the noise and escorted the man out of the restaurant. The girl's name was Maria. This young photo model had met this brute just a few hours before the incident. She did like him at first, but he turned out to be quite a bastard. He wanted her to go to his room. And then, when Maria refused, he caused a scene, which we witnessed. The hotel administration assured us that the man got kicked out and he wouldn't bother anyone anymore. This way, I found myself on the Côte d'Azur coast in the company of 2 beautiful and intelligent girls. I felt energetic and capable of great things. However, I had no idea that it wouldn't be long before life decided to test what I was really capable of. Well, the day had come. I headed out for a walk before going to bed, as I always did. When I got back to my room, I saw Vicky. She was dead, lying on the floor with a stab wound in her neck. Her blood seemed to be everywhere, trails stretching out onto the terrace. I immediately called the front desk and they called the police. Vicky's room was a mess. The police concluded that's where she got attacked, but there was no murder weapon, neither in her room nor in mine. I suggested that perhaps, having been wounded, she was looking for help. And that's why she made her way to my room. But the detective said it looked like Vicky was chasing her murderer. What's most surprising is that she checked into the hotel using the name Laura Cote. Now why? And why would the murderer flee through my room? The police officer asked how we met. I told him everything the way it was. I also added what I learned from Vicky, that her husband started an affair, they got divorced, and he left her with nothing. But Vicky had found a way to establish justice, so now she could enjoy life from what she told me herself. I also told the officer about the incident at the restaurant. Could have been Maria's offended suitor getting back at Vicky. Maria was in a state of shock. Her hands were trembling and her face was white as snow. But she did confirm my words. The hotel administration assured that they had evicted the man the same day, and the premises were thoroughly guarded so there could be no strangers around. Then I told the police officer that when we went to the restaurant, Vicky often looked at the bartender, and I assumed she was having an affair with him. The other day, he just flooded our table with cocktails we didn't order. The policeman assured me that he would check all the information. He asked the hotel administration not to let me out of the hotel until the investigation is complete. He handed me his card, saying that if I wanted to confess something, I could always call him. I got shocked. Am I really being suspected of murder? I wanted to argue the point, but I had no evidence to back it up. The police took off and left me alone with the hardest puzzle of my life. To prove my innocence, I had to find the killer myself. But first, I had to figure out who Vicky really was. I Googled for everyone named Laura Cote, but I got nothing. So the only lead I had was the bartender. I was too scared to go to him alone. I called Maria to come with me, but she refused, saying she still had trouble coming to her senses. So I had to go myself. I thought I'd at least keep an eye on him to see if anything turned up. Just before the restaurant closed, the bartender took a box and went out into the courtyard towards a warehouse. There was a maid there, and they started arguing. The bartender set the box on the ground and gestured vigorously as if to tell her off. These two were suspicious, but were they responsible for the murder? If they wanted to rob a visitor, the cleaning lady could easily ransack the room anyway. Why commit a murder? Soon the woman left. The bartender picked up the box and went into the warehouse. If he was hiding something, this was my chance to catch him red-handed. I decided to follow him. There was no light in the hallway, but when I walked in, it started on the motion sensor. At the same moment, someone started making noise, as if some glass cans were moved or broken. I walked a little farther and saw the bartender hiding empty liquor bottles. He looked as frightened as I was and immediately asked me not to tell anyone. Suddenly, I realized that he was filling brand name bottles with some kind of junk and making money that way. I decided that since I had leverage, I should push it. I told the bartender that I wouldn't rat him out if he told me everything he knew about the murder and about the reason for their fight with the maid. The guy stopped whining but got even more scared. Said there was nothing going on between him and Vicky. It's just that she found out about his illegal business too, so he tried to butter her up with free cocktails. And the maid is his mother. And he was fighting with her because his mother got in touch with the man who had yelled at Maria at the restaurant. A few days before, that man had given the bartender's mother money to let him into Vicky's room. The man went through Vicky's things and took her laptop. Now the police are on the prowl, and the barman is frightened for himself and his mother. I headed back to the room. I was shaking all over. That bastard from the restaurant could have been the murderer. But why would he steal the laptop and then kill Vicky? I phoned the detective and asked if that guy had been interrogated. He said it was confidential, but the guy had an alibi. At about the time of the murder, he was seen at the Concord Hotel, where he'd moved in. I went to Maria, told her about the laptop being stolen, and questioned her failed acquaintance again, asking her to remember each detail. Maria looked lethargic and was quite sluggish in answering my questions. But as she was allowed to leave the hotel, I asked her to go to Concord and trace the guy. But Maria freaked out so badly all of a sudden that I got confused. She claimed that I wanted her dead since I was sending her to follow a man who probably would have killed her too if Vicky hadn't stepped in. She announced that she was not going to stay in this hotel, nor in this country any longer, and started packing her suitcase. I went back to my room, dumbfounded. I looked in my bag for my puzzle book and pulled out 2 of them. One had bloodstains on it. Looks like Vicky wasn't chasing the killer. When she got wounded, she was trying to send me a message, and it's right here in this book. Vicky stuffed her into my bag and fell over in the middle of the room. Tears ran down my cheeks. I quickly searched through all the pages but found nothing. What did you want me to find, Vicky? I started to remember what we had talked about. Vicky was telling me about Sherlock Holmes, who wrote with milk on the paper, thus hiding his messages. One had to heat the page to see the writing. I plugged in the hairdryer and I saw them. Just 3 random words. What kind of gibberish is this? I spent the rest of the morning racking my brain to figure out how to decode the message. I tried to pick up the key and came upon the Caesar cipher. Vicky had told me a lot about it. The letters in this cipher are replaced by a constant number of positions away from them in the alphabet. The Roman emperor, as far as I know, used a cipher with a 3-position offset, but it didn't work. So I tried Vicky's favorite number 14, and it worked. The first coded word was vtorres.com, the name of a secure website. The second was Vicky Torres, and the third was a combination of letters and numbers. So that's the site, login, and password. I logged into the website. There were 3 folders: people, money, and animals. I opened the people folder. There were a bunch of files relating to different people: engineers, interpreters, lawyers. There was a file on the bartender and me. Vicky was collecting information on everyone she met. But Maria wasn't there. I guess Vicky just didn't have time for that. The money folder contained hundreds of accounting reports and a link to a Cypriot news site that had an article regarding the arrest of broker Nicholas Thorez, who had been scamming his clients for years. The police received the evidence of financial fraud by email. But when the police came to get Thorez, he said that he had no money. He got robbed himself. Looks like Vicky handed her husband over to the police, took the money and escaped, then moved in here. Now, what's in the animals folder? There was information about her husband, his lover, a dossier, on the man from the restaurant, and on Maria. It turned out that the stranger was Vicky's husband's business partner and Maria was his sister. It wasn't hard to guess why they were here. I dialed the detective, but before I could hear the dial tone, the door to my room opened. It was Maria walking in. I shut the lid of my laptop urgently and put my phone away. Maria said she had come to say goodbye. "I'm so sorry," I said. Suddenly, the detective's voice came over my phone. "Please speak up." And we both froze. "I know who is the murderer!" I shouted. Maria ran for the exit. I chased her down the stairs and grabbed her arm. But this girl twisted around and pushed me as hard as she could. I fell down the stairs. My eyes flashed, and then something crunched and popped, and my head went black. I woke up in the hospital. There was a detective sitting next to me. He said that I am a very brave and smart woman. Thanks to me, Maria and her brother got arrested. They were pulled off an airplane that was about to take off, and they will be tried for murder and attempted murder. So their vacation is going to be a long one. Mine will last a few more weeks in the hospital. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to roll down the stairs with only a broken arm and a slight concussion. The detective came to see me a lot. He told me how the investigation was going. It turned out that finding Vicky and getting the money back was her husband's idea. A business partner and his sister checked into a hotel in different rooms. Vicky had never seen them before, so it should have worked. The criminals stole her laptop but found nothing. Maria had to gain Vicky's trust. That's why they acted out the scene in the restaurant. But Vicky blew the whistle. When she said that to Maria, she attacked Vicky with a pair of scissors. After the murder, she decided to stay in a hotel for a day or two, so as not to attract attention by leaving abruptly. But it was enough for me to solve the puzzle. This is how my vacation, which was supposed to be calm and carefree, ended. By the way, the Cypriot investment company that was ripped off by Thorez got back the stolen funds and paid me a considerable reward. So the next time I'm going to take a flight to a really quiet place.